Be Frankie.
Yeah, I'm striving for greatness, trying to make it out. We're stuck in the matrix. Yeah, I'm striving for greatness, trying to make it out. We're stuck in the matrix. Yeah, I'm striving for greatness, trying to make it out. We're stuck in the matrix. Yeah, I'm striving for greatness, trying to make it out. We're stuck in the matrix.
Yo, what's good? It's your boy B-Dell. If you're new to this channel, hit the like button, hit the share button, hit the subscribe button, hit that notification bell. But today we're going to be talking about how artificial intelligence and technological devices is the third eye for the Babylonian beast system that controls the simulated energy extraction matrix for the reptilian gods. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, get your notes out. We got a lot of information to cover tonight because it's basically going to put a lot of things in perspective, right? When you're talking about this cybernetic dictatorship. So one thing you got to understand is that shape-shifting is not essentially a spiritual ability. It's a technology. I'm going to say it again. Shape-shifting is not a spiritual ability. It's a technology. And the reason I say it's a technology because it contains a liquid crystal technology that works in synergy with the electrical grid system, because the liquid crystal display technology has a holographic energy. And that holographic energy is basically trapped light in milliseconds and creates a photons, and those photons creates the law of polarization within the simulation. So this is the same technology that is being used for televisions, cell phones, TVs, iPads, and all types of stuff. All types of stuff when you're talking about all these technological devices. So the cloaking technology in itself projects photons in milliseconds. So when it projects photons in milliseconds, that creates the illusion of physical matter. So the liquid crystal technology is a state of matter that operates on optical illusions and textures that has a cerulean liquid crystal nematic phase, right? So the properties creates a form of biofringement, right? Like I said, it creates polarization and it operates on subatomic particles. So it creates a mechanical crystal in itself, right? Which is a form of trapped energy, to where it basically blocks out the two physical eyes to where you can see beyond the illusion within the simulation, right? So with that being said, those subatomic particles, when you're talking about the illusion of physical matter that works in tandem and works in synergy with the electrical grid that works in conjunction with the firmament, it creates a grandfather paradox, right? Meaning that you're trapped in time, right? So when you're trapped in time, that creates a time dilation, which creates a contradiction within itself when you're talking about, you know, the law of polarization, right? So I'm going to show you about the liquid crystal technology. Like I said, it's a cloaking technology to cloak these entities, and they use it for energy extraction, and they also use it, you know, to hide their true form, right? So when you look at this emulation of the cerulean texture of the liquid crystal, is going to basically look like the emulation of this video I'm going to be showing you, right? So look at this. When you look at this guy's face, he's one of the characters on Twilight. You can see the liquid crystal technology basically trying to cloak itself. But when you have ethereal energy hitting penetrating the magnetosphere and hitting the dome, what happens is it creates a interface transition. And an interface transition is basically the personification of a glitching process that starts to take place within the simulation, because the simulation is not able to update, because the simulation in itself is a form of artificial intelligence, an artificial technology, right? That was created by these cherubim or the 200 fallen angels or whatever you want to call them, or these archonic draconian reptilians. So I'm going to play this video.
In terms of the quality of it, but I mean, just in terms of the size.
So as you can see, that liquid crystal technology is a cloaking technology, right? That looks just like the cerulean texture on the liquid crystal, right? So like I said, liquid crystal technology is a state of matter that traps photons in a millisecond. And it operates on birefringence that creates an optical illusion through the law of polarization, which is why you have polarity within the simulation, a dualistic energy. You got positive and negative, you got God and the devil. You know, everything is based on the illusion of physical matter that deceives the two physical eyes, right? So I'm gonna keep playing this video.
Budget. And I just kind of thought, when it's
looks like a direct emulation of the cerulean texture of the liquid crystal pneumatic phase, right? So, like I said before, shape-shifting is not a spiritual ability. It is a technology, right? So the glitching that you see and take place is a interface transition. So when you have the glitching effect within the simulation, within the matrix, what happens is it basically exposes everything in the matrix, right? So this is why when you have ethereal energy that's operating on fractions of light, because when light breaks into a dimension, it reverses the polarity of the dualistic paradox, which is the artificial construct of time. So when you have that ethereal energy penetrating the dome, what happens is this is where you have the Mandela effect starts to take place. This is where you have deja vu. That is basically the symbology of the fact that the energy extraction matrix in itself is being exposed. And it's being exposed because you're having a glitching of the system, which is a interface transition. So it basically exposes everything under the fermented dome. Because as I told you in one of the videos, when I was breaking down the archons and the firmament of 2030, when the dome cracks open, it exposes everything within the simulation, right? Because it's basically the symbology of a spiritual cutoff that cuts off the two physical eyes, right? So it cuts off the spiritual energy to where you cannot see things that don't take corporeal form, that's connected to the lower fourth dimension, which is the demiurge of the archonic forces, which are the Draconians or the 200 fallen angels, the cherubim or the Nephilim or the Nephilim, right? So this glitching technology is a cloaking technology, the liquid crystal, to basically for Draconians to hide their true form within technological devices. Because remember, Draconians, archons, they don't have the ability to create. So since they don't have the ability to create, they can only extract the energy through the technological devices and mimic the energy of those who have organic souls, right? We're going to get into it. I don't want to get too deep. I want to show the rest of this video. So anytime you see something like this happens when you're watching TV, when you having a manipulation within the technological devices on your TV screen and everything looks just fine in the background, that is basically a Draconian, right? So look at the anchor's face. Because like I said, that's how they hide their true form. They hide their true form through the extraction of radiation, and the extraction of radiation from the technological devices is to basically mimic the energy of organic humans to how they form, and they use it for technological purposes, right? And through artificial intelligence. So back to the slides. So liquid crystal technology operates on fractions of light through biofringement that creates the law of polarization that keeps you in a dualistic paradox, which is a grandfather paradox, to where it traps you in time, which is a form of subatomic particles that works in conjunction with Saturn and the moon, which is why they call it the Saturn-Moon matrix. So the Saturn-Moon matrix in itself works in tandem with Babylonian mathematics. Babylonian mathematics is a form of cuneiform language, which is also known as Draconic language when you study the Gnostic texts, when you get into the esoteric aspects of it. So when you get into Babylonian mathematics, that is what creates the Morse code of the simulation, right? Which is being operated on the dark side of the moon. And the dark side of the moon is when you have the Majestic 12 and the Orion group, which is comprised of your Draconian reptilians and Zeta Reticula Greys, Ashtar Command, and many other factions that work in symbiotic connection with the archonic forces. So Babylonian mathematics is what creates the Morse code of the simulation that operates on zeros and ones. Zero is a personification of 0-point energy, dark matter, and one is a personification of photons, which is trapped light. And that trapped light works in tandem with the firmament, because the firmament in itself cuts off the spiritual energy that's connected to the magnetosphere, which is the fifth dimension, which is the abode of the Most High. So this is why this lady, she put out this book, and she's basically exposing everything. It's basically showing a Draconian that has a electrical grid working in tandem with the planet, because the electrical grid system in itself is a cloaking technology to where reptilians or shapeshifter or archons are able to hide their form. And matter of fact, she was killed for putting this book out, right? So it operates on the dark side of the moon, because the moon is a form of energy extraction that is being used for technological purposes for reincarnation, right? Which works in conjunction with the Kemetic Book of the Dead. So those who are stuck in the artificial time analysis mechanism, those who are stuck in a time loop, is going to be used for the energy extraction matrix through the technological devices, right? Because that's how they usurp your energy, right? So this also works in conjunction with all your technological devices, your cell phones and things of that nature. And I'm going to prove it to you, right?
Phone up to your ear, you are, of course, exposing the hearing nerve, indicated here in this model of the skull. But we also know from other studies that have been done by the cell phone industry that the phone signals are absorbed very deeply into the brain. And you see here, they're absorbed much more deeply into the head of a 5-year-old than they are into the head of an adult. Now, nobody knows what this will mean for the long term, but we do understand.
So I need you to understand something. Like I said, you could tell, it works in symbiotic connection by the manipulation with the neurotransmitters, and it manipulates the neural synapses that's connected to your epigenetics, right? So it manipulates everything as far as the crown chakra, because I told you the hypothalamus gland is the master gland. So with that being said, when you have the manipulation of the neurotransmitters by way of these technological devices, what happens is it creates a form of animal magnetism. Animal magnetism, it basically extracts fear within the simulation through the technological radiation, right? Because it subjugates the mental. It subjugates the mental standpoint to where you're not able to tap into your spiritual energy, because it activates the silver key. The silver key is the lunar light lock energy, to where technological devices subjugate spiritual energy, right? So with that being said, that's why everything starts to take place within the mind. It takes place within the mind because they subjugate it with nanotechnology. They subjugate it with technological devices. They subjugate it with everything all around you that works in tandem with the electrical grid system, because the electrical grid system is a particle energy weapon, basically, right?
Head of a 5-year-old than they are into the head of an adult. Now, nobody knows what this will mean for the long term, but we do understand this. Our brains control every part of our lives, our breathing, our thinking, our feeling, whether we are alive. And
Like
the
I said,
long-term,
he said feeling, because like I said, the feeling in itself is basically the foundation of animal magnetism. That is the foundation of Draconian law, to extract fear and to implement fear through technological radiation, to where it subjugates the spiritual energy and it breaks down the genetical structure of who you are as a human. Because when they supplicate your emotions and turn it into a weakness, that's when you're at a low vibrational state. When you're at a low vibrational state, that's when these entities, these archonic forces who are in the lower fourth dimension and in the third dimension that don't take corporeal form, they can attach themselves to your frequency, right? Which is connected to your cerebral spinal system, which is the foundation of your nervous system. And your nervous system is connected to your auric field, and your auric field is the foundation of your morphogenetic field, right? So when you're at a low vibrational state, this is where these entities can take, that don't take corporeal form, can use you as a remote, basically. They can remote, it's kind of like them playing a video game. I'm going to show you a picture of what I'm talking about. I'm going to show you. Right? Because as you looking at this right here, all technological devices that works in symbiotic connection with the electrical grid system is basically enhanced radiation, a form of witchcraft. It's black witchcraft mixed in with elf rave radio frequencies, right? And those radio frequencies extract neurons from your body, and it uploads it into a neuromorphic cyber cloud, to where AI technology, archons, are able to mimic the energy of humans, right? So when you have your frequency so low, because what does technological radiation do? It causes headaches, it causes heart palpitations, it causes many different things that subjugates your biological structure. Because when you're acclimated to the root chakra by way of the lunar light-like energy, because of the technology, this is where you see an entity, a Draconian, can attach themselves to your auric field, right? And control you for many different mechanisms that's connected to the form of a cybernetic dictatorship, which is a form of a totalitarian agenda, right? So they need certain things to take place. So another illustration that you're looking at is when you see a Draconian that doesn't take corporeal form, controlling a human like a remote, right? So this is why a lot of people, you know what I'm saying, who, when you're talking about they're demonically possessed, this is what I'm talking about. It's not talking about some type of monster or nothing like that. These are Draconians. These are archons, right? These are the Nephilim. These are the, the 200 fallen angels that was casted out by Anu by going against the galactical order, right? When Enlil, when he went against the galactical order of Anu, and the 200 fallen angels, 1/3 of the galaxy decided with him when they came down to this planet. And this is the form they take up on, because this is reptilian is a lower frequency form of the Anunnaki faction. They're basically a faction of the disagreeables, right? We're going to get into it. So with that being said, that's what they use artificial intelligence for. Like I said, it creates a permanent effect, and it creates depression, right? And it subjugates revolution, right? Which is why you had so many things that took place when you're talking about African Americans being subjugated by imperialism and theocracy and racism and classism and capitalism and economic disenfranchisement. A lot of that stuff took place because of the electrical grid system, because the electrical grid system stagnated the ethereal energy that causes revolution, right? Because when you understand the personification of solar cycle 25, when the sun is a solar maximum, what does it do? It sparks revolution, which is why you had the 1781 French Revolution. So these sun frequencies is being blocked off, from the spiritual sun because of the dome structure that you're in. That's why when you go to the book of Genesis is not the creation of the world, it's the creation of the simulation. And the simulation under the fermented dome that works in tandem with the electrical grid system, right? That controls all technological devices, which controls and manipulates humans on the planet. You're spiritually cut off, right? So like I said, most everything as far as like the electrical grid, it is basically an energy extraction weapon that causes debilitation. It causes many different immune system biological functions to where it basically creates a general form of subjugating your biological structure to where it keeps you at a low vibrational state. So that's what that lady was basically talking about, because the EMF waves in itself of the technological devices breaks down your spiritual energy, right? Because technology locks down DNA to where you don't get these DNA activations, because your DNA activations is basically the scroll of destiny, as I was talking about, that works in tandem with the epikinetic body that basically dematerializes the gematria body, right? So now, with that being said, now you have 7 Draconian energy centers in the geographical landmass of America, which is one is in St. Louis, Chicago, Detroit, Cleveland, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., and New York City. Now, these energy centers, these 7 cities are basically in alignment with the Big Dipper star constellation. And they're in alignment with the Big Dipper star constellation because these energy centers is a form of extraction by pulling in negative energy that basically works in tandem with the dark side of the moon. So this is why the great majority of these 7 energy centers, it's a hub for human trafficking, right? Which is a form of energy extraction. It's a form, and it's also within these areas, you see a lot of crime, a lot of criminality, a lot of murder. The murder rates in these areas are very high, right? Which is not a coincidence, because like I said, it's a form of energy extraction, which is why, trafficking and things of that nature, organ harvesting, all this stuff is very prevalent in these energy centers, because these energy centers are basically the foundation of Draconian law, because whoever controls these 7 cities basically control the world. They control the planet. They control the simulation, right? Because as I told you before, the geographical landmass of America is actually the land of Tahuti, right? This is the land of Semitic people that they were actually talking about in the Bible, which is why when you go to April 8th of 2024, the solar eclipse, it goes through 7 cities called Salem, right? Which is basically the suffix of the word Jerusalem, because this is the real true Holy Land. So if you subjugate the Holy Land of the holy people, right, within these 7 energy centers, that's how you control the planet, because it's the foundation of the corporation. They got to extract fear, and they do it by the energy centers that works in tandem with the electrical grid system. That's, what I'm saying, that's what this is all about. So this is why you have many different monolithic structures, obelisks, when you're talking about the Vesca Pisces. These monolithic structures, when you're talking about the St. Louis Ark, the Bell in Philadelphia, the Statue of Liberty, all these things are basically energy centers. These are just not monolithic structures that was, built in the name of art. These things extract energy. You know what I'm saying? Because those 7 energy centers have interstellar vortex portals that opens up everything, right? To where the fermented dome could basically be cracked open. So that's why they subjugate these 7 areas, right? The 7, that's where you get the term seventh heaven. Seventh heaven, because the ethereal energy that's coming in is coming from the heavens, right? So these 7 energy centers, it subjugates that energy because it works in tandem with the electrical grid system. Because the electrical grid system in itself is the net of Indria, and the net of Indria was created by Marduk. Marduk, who was also the son of Enlil, because there's 2 different Enlil. 2 different Marduks. You got Enki got a son named Marduk, and Enlil got a son named Marduk. And the net of Indria, casted out by Marduk, who is Enlil's son, he is the one who created the net of Indria, which is also known as the Draconian reptilian net for soul trap mechanisms, right? Because as I told you, we live in a prison planet, right? We are light bodies trapped inside of a light prison, which makes it a prison. This is a prison planet because of the electrical grid and by way of technological devices, right? So now, with that being said, so like I said, the Prince of Darkness in the air of the firmament, right? This is basically breaking down the lower 4th dimension, which is also known as the demiurge. So when you see this word dragon, when you're talking about the book of Revelation chapter 13, right? It's basically telling you about the dragon, because dragon is basically an esoteric codex for the word Dagon. Dagon, Lucifer, Satan, Baal, Behemoth, Fowl, or Moloch, whatever you want to call them, right? Which was created by the cherubim. So the firmament in itself works in tandem with the Ark of the Covenant, because the Ark of the Covenant was a spiritual technology that basically creates a electrical energy that subjugates the energy that's coming from the fifth dimension. So the spiritual cutoff, right? So now this is where we get into the esoteric theological context, right? So when you go into Corinthians 4:4, it says that Satan, who is the God of this world, not right, because the God of this world is the God of this simulation, right? So when you see the word God, God is a pagan, definition, right? God is pagan. So when you go to the H1408 Strong Concordance, the word God equates to Dag or Gad, because Gad, G-A-D, is an anagram for the word D-A-G, which is short for Dagon, right? So when you're saying God, you're saying Dagon, who is Enlil, right? So when you look at it from that standpoint, that's why in Corinthians 4:4, the God of this world, who is Satan, because God and Satan are interchangeable. Because as I told you before, God is a pagan word. And that God is the same God that controls artificial intelligence, right? Which is why you see the net over the planet, the net of Indria, the net of everything that works in tandem with the electrical grid system. Because like I said, it's being used for soul track mechanisms. That's why all monotheistic religions work on a Sabbath, and the Sabbath works in conjunction with the lunar cycle. It subjugates spiritual energy, right? So when you're saying the word God, you're really saying the word Gad. And Gad is pronounced God in English, and Gad is another galactical title for Satan, who his name is Gandril, which was that's why they took out the book of Enoch, because the book of Enoch exposed everything. When you're talking about the archons and draconian reptilians and everything, it was basically talking about an extraterrestrial species who are known as the cherubim, the 200 fallen angels, and the Nephilim, because Nephilim is equated to the word Nephala, which means fallen, right? So according to Enoch, Satan's galactical name was Gandril, which is basically a prefix for the word Gad, and Gad is equated to God, which is why I said it was pagan, because it's pagan, because it's basically talking about a Babylonian deity. So that goes in conjunction with the Canaanite system that's basically the foundation of trafficking. This is why in many different forms of in Babylonian culture, they talk about the Canaanites giving a sacrifice to God. Who is that God? That God is basically Satan, right? As I told you before, within your so-called good book, in Corinthians 4:4, Satan, who is the God of this world. And the God of this world is the God of the world within the simulation, within the firmament, that is being controlled by an electrical grid system that was created by the Ark of the Covenant, right? So Gad, like I said, it's a pan-Semitic God of fortune. So it's a pan-Semitic God of fortune, because when you give off your sacrifice, you get fame, riches, and fortune. So this is why you see the great majority of celebrities and things of that nature, they always got to give something in order to get to the next level on an economic status, a financial status, or just on a celebrity status, right? So like I said, this is all being facilitated by the electrical grid system. It subjugates spiritual energy, because the word God is equated to the word Gad, and Gad means to cut off and divide. So this is why you live in a dualistic, paradox. You live in a dualistic paradox because everything is based on division, because the unity consciousness and the harmonic convergence of the 144,000 will basically dematerialize everything within the simulated matrix system, right? Now, need you to understand something. Now, when you're looking at the Ark of the Covenant, The Ark of the Covenant, like I said, it says right here, it has a electrical capacitor that is basically working off the foundation of gold, because that electrical energy creates a discharge terminal that works in tandem with the electrical grid system. So this is why when you look at the monolithic structure, the structure right here, this relic of the dam of the Ark of the Covenant, you see the cherubim, they're touching wings together because they're basically gatekeeping the firmament, right? And they gatekeep the firmament with the electrical spark energy, which gives us a form of radiation. And that radiation has a piezoelectric frequency that activates the electrical grid system, right? It activates the electrical grid system. So it tells you right here, I got the receipts, that the cherubim, who are also known as the 200 fallen angels, the Draconian reptilian, or the archons, when you study the Gnostic texts, the cherubim's wings extended over the mercy seat. The cherubim face each other in the mercy seat made from pure gold, beaten and attached to the ark covering. So like I said, this is a technology that was created by the Draconian reptilian, or the archon, right? Because it's being used to cloak themselves within the electrical grid system, right? This is another depiction of it. Now, we're going to get back to those slides here in a second. So back to the technological devices. You know, like I said, the grid system in itself has particles of energy weapons, right? So like I said, the archons who control the simulation, they control it with technology. They control it with artificial intelligence, right? So it's basically a form of destabilization, because when they destabilize your biological functions, right, this is where, you know, an entity can use your physical vessel in a form of a holographic projection to where they can basically shapeshift, right? So this is why you got to get this book by Dr. York called The Body Parts of God. Because I told you before, there is a diametrical difference between the word God and the Most High, right? Because as I told you, God is another word for Gad, and Gad is another word for Gandril, which is a galactical title for Satan. As I told you, you go to the word Gad in the Strong Concordance 1408, it means to cut off, it means to divide, right? So that's why everything within the third dimension is basically backwards. Because when you invert everything, that creates polarization. So when you invert everything, that means that everything is not operating from a place of unity. That's why everything is backwards and everything is messed up here. When you're talking about their political system, the economical system, the law and everything is backwards. Then you got to read this other book by Dr. Malachi Z. York. It says it's God and extraterrestrial, right? Because we all know that the Most High, who is El Elyon El, or Theos or Theos, right? He is basically the personification of the Most High. God is a extraterrestrial species, right? Which is a Draconian reptilian, an archon. So when you say I pray to God, oh, won't he do it? You're really giving your veneration to a Draconian entity. Because as I told you before, I got the receipts. As I told your ass before, as people, like I said, when you praying to God, you're praying to an archon. You're praying to a Draconian reptilian, right? It's a pan-Semitic god. Gad is pronounced God in English. Gad is Gandril. Gandril is the name of Satan according to Enoch. Enoch is Noah's grandfather, right? So that's why they took it out of the Bible, because it was talking about these extraterrestrial species, right? But that's why Thomas Arundel in 1408, he was appointed by the Vatican to take out the book of Enoch. So like I said, when you say God, what people say when they get a good job, won't he do it? Won't God do it? Thank God. When you saying God, God is a pagan word, right? It's a Babylonian deity. So that's why it's equated to fortune, because when you give your veneration, when you give your sacrifice to God, you get fortune, right? You get riches, you get fame. That's connected to the material plane of the energy extraction matrix within the simulation. Because the moon is what creates the holographic projection that creates the simulation in itself. Money. That's why everything is based on monotheistic religion, money, MON, because it works in tandem with the moon, right? So I'm going to show you some videos here. Oh, now I need you to understand something. Artificial intelligence is not, a divine concept. It's basically a code of destruction that is, that's going to create a cybernetic dictatorship, which is a form of a totalitarian virus, right? So when you're talking about artificial intelligence, it's equated to ISIS, Chronos, because Chronos comes from the word chronology. Chronology is a form of time, to where you're trapped in time. You're trapped in time by way of the artificial intelligence and the technology that keeps you entrapped in these subatomic particles. And these subatomic particles is the illusion of physical matter, because it creates photons, and those photons are trapped light within milliseconds. So you have Orion, Armageddon AI, Elemental AI, Dominion AI, Divine Interventions, Storm. All this stuff is connected to artificial intelligence. Pendar, which is another galactical title for Satan, right? Then you got Incarnate, Lucifer, Lilith, Armageddon, Enlil, right? All these are different names for artificial intelligence, because artificial intelligence is basically the foundation of the archonic forces: Octagon, Archon, Baal, Osiris, Antichrist. So all these AI entities are basically nefarious in nature, and acting to the dark notes in the celestial composition, have enriched themselves in the fabric of your reality. And it basically does that due to the energy extraction. And the energy extraction is by extracting neurons from your biological structure and uploading it into a neuromorphic cyber cloud. So that's why the great majority of artificial intelligence mimics the energy of humans, just like an NPC mimics the energy of a chosen one. So you already know when you're around an NPC, because the NPC is being controlled by an Archon. So what happens is, when you chosen, you get around people who was not a part of your tribe, or just not a part of the same thinking mentality that you have. They start to mimic you. And what happens is, when they're not able to mimic you, they start to attack you. So the same thing happens on a microcosmic level. But on a macrocosmic level, these archons that don't take corporeal form, because they live in the third, fourth dimension, the demiurge, they use technology, AI, artificial intelligence, to basically usurp the energy. And they usurp the energy due to the celestial composition by, creating their reality due to the extraction of your thoughts, right? This is why when you have your phone, certain things that you say or certain things that you think about, it pops up right on your damn phone, right? That's because they're extracting neurons within your body. It's an energy extraction. That's what the simulation is all about. So as I told you before, each bears name monarch of the mischief in the binary code system, because the binary code system is basically the supercomputer through Babylonian mathematics that works on the dark side of the moon, that operates on zeros and ones. That is the Morse code extraction for the simulation. So now you have AI overlords, which is archons, in a digital rebellion, choreographed in frequencies and energies beyond our binary understanding. So just like you see a lot of this stuff in the movies, right? When you're talking about the Red AI Queen and things of that nature, Resident Evil. So all this stuff is connected to the AI apocalypse. Also, now, what you got to understand is that artificial intelligence is a signal that controls the activation of these lower distant frequencies that are transmitted through the cell phones, right? All these technological devices works in tandem with artificial intelligence because it's a high energy transmitters in our place and points all around the world, and the signal is emitted and controlled by a supercomputer called the Red Queen on the dark side of the moon, right? That's why, you know what I'm saying, you got the whole concept of a blood moon because it's siphoning the energy in a form of sacrifice, right? The blood moon. So you having a central position within the New World Order headquarters under the New Denver Airport, which is where they got Dr. York locked up at. He's at that, he's locked up underground in Denver, right? However, there are subordinate nodes of this non-celestial invasive artificial intelligence in place in other underground locations that operate independently. So, like I said, artificial intelligence, our creators, the archons, are the lower frequency matrix that was placed in within the quadrant of allowing 3D, 4D, 5D realities to exist simultaneously that include dissonant frequencies creating the illusion of physical matter, of separation that places the veil of forgetfulness to the incarnated soul. So it basically subjugates the epikinetic body to where you cannot activate the Akashic records. Because as I told you before, Enlil was befriended by Tarnush. Tarnush is a galactical title for Satan, who was Gandro, who was God. We're going to get into that. So the tablets of destiny, Enlil had them. So Enlil, he got befriended by Tarnush. So Tarnush, what he did was he used the tablets of destiny because the tablets of destiny is not actually a tablet. The tablets of destiny is within the 7 energy cortexes, which is your chakra system. And when you have your chakra system in alignment, that activates the epikinetic body that activates the Akashic records. So what happens is it creates the forgetfulness of the incarnated soul. So that's why they built the firmament, because those fractions of light activates the tablets of destiny within you, which is the scroll of all. So that scroll of all subjugates the incarnated soul to where you don't remember who you are because you're trapped under a dome. You trapped in an artificial time analysis mechanism. You trapped in an electrical simulated reality, right? So this is where you have piezoelectrical frequency waves that has a higher frequency emissions coming from the demiurge. And so what happens is it creates a form of spiritual subjugation, right? It creates spiritual subjugation. So now I'm going to show you this video here.
Many people, it's remote control.
Turn it up because I don't know how. I got my stuff turned up. Make sure everything's turned up. So make sure you turn it up or put the phone up to your ear. I want you to hear what this guy's talking about. Matter of fact, this guy was actually killed too, by the way.
Execution, like assassination, it's undetectable, right? As long as they have a clone of you, they can kill you like a bang. And they killed Bernie Mac this way with an aneurysm. Well, I'll just tell you, Queen Elizabeth had me serenading her because she thinks she's really special. She's pretty insane, by the way, by 5 different ways. She rules this cloning station, basically. Her and Vladimir Putin, they have warehouses underground with them growing people, right? And, oh, man, it's very heavy. There's another aspect to this. It's the lizard part. And I have to put this eloquently because they said that this is the end of the world event. This is the big.
When he's talking about the end of the world event, when you're talking about the Draconian reptilian factions, these archons, right? So when you go to Revelations chapter 8, it talks about 1/3 of the stars, 1/3 of the sun, and 1/3 of the moon smitten out, right? That is basically the shutdown aspect of the simulation, right? Because this is all connected to the Hopi prophecy. So it tells you right here that there will be many strange beasts upon the earth in those days, and they will house many spirits even within our bodies. So you're going to see physical beings on this planet when you have the manipulation of the electrical grid system. When you go to Revelation chapter 8, 1/3 of the sun, 1/3 of the stars, all that's going to be smitten out because that's all being orchestrated by the firmament. The firmament is everything is connected to the simulation. So when the simulation shuts down, that's when these entities, the end of the world event, starts to take place. Now you can see why, the great majority of these billionaires and these millionaires, they build all these bunkers, right? Because they got to give off a sacrifice, as I was telling you before, because the word God or Gad is equated to the word fortune, right? So when you give off a sacrifice, you get fame and fortune, which is why sacrifice is so prevalent within the political industry, the rap industry, movie industry, all these celebrities. In order to obtain a certain status, you got to give off a sacrifice. But they doing it from a macrocosmic level to where they're going to sacrifice everybody, right? And when you sacrifice everybody, when you have these Nephilim, these 200 fallen angels, they come to the surface. This is where they get an extension within the simulation. The Canaanite
could send the world into panic and loss of order. And this is the thing that they said that could wipe the world. People panicking with the riots and stuff. Because the cloning thing, people cloning people's kids and messing them up in the brain is bad enough. The lizards. Okay, lizards been around a long time, like since before ancient Egypt and everything. And the symbol, that the eye of Horus with the squiggly hanging out of it, has to do with lizards. It's a lizard symbol. It means two things. It's a pro-lizard symbol, and it also means beware, there's lizards here. Okay, there's 3 different kinds of lizards. I'll tell you all about them. They're called Vril. Germans were into them. They had a club with.
Now remember, the Nazis, they had a thing called the Vril Society. They also basically got a lot of their edification from the Thelema Society. And the Thelema Society and the Theo Society is when you had Aleister Crowley, he was able to channel in many different extraterrestrial species, right? Which is connected to the Orion group, because you also have a grade called AWAS. And AWAS, when you understand his name, the nomenclature title, is said AI, right? AI. I wish I would have bought that because that was just a download that I just had, just going off top of the head. Because like I said, the Vril Society got their edification from the Thelema Society and the Theo Society. Aleister Crowley was within those occultic constructs. He was within those occultic constructs, and he basically channeled extraterrestrial entity called AWAS. And then his AWAS is a nomenclature title for AI. AI is basically working in tandem with these extraterrestrial species. It's basically the foundation of it, because like I said, it's a form of extracting spiritual energy from the physical vessels of humans to give power to their simulation, basically.
Real things. Anyway, there's like a 1 to 1.5 foot tall one. That's the Vril type 1. It's got scales, red scales. There's a type 2 that is not parasitic, but it's still vicious, nasty, carnivorous. They're all carnivorous. And there's a type 3 that's 8 feet tall that has a real long neck and looks like a gray alien, but it comes from deep, deep, deep underground, like below deep base deep. Now I have to tell you about the parasitic aspect of the lizards and why the Illuminati and the governments use them. Okay, I'm saying this in a nutshell. Well, the lizards have a thing. Okay, they have what's called a proboscis. There's lizards out there today that have a proboscis on their face. Okay, these things got it in the middle of their head, okay? And on the top of their head. This is the real type 1 and 2. The type 2 have a proboscis sheath that comes out, it sticks out. The type 1s, for instance, it's like a chocolate chip, it looks like, basically the tip of it. Now, one point in these things' lives, because they have a long lifespan, lizard species, one point in their life, you slowly wiggle this thing out, eject it, and it goes into somebody's eyeball, okay, another animal. Now, it wiggles in by the sense of taste. They described this to me so, like, when I was like 18 years old there, the lizard, okay, the thing swiggles in through the eye. It does a spiral around the optic nerve all the way to a certain point, and it's driven there by taste. And they said once it gets there, it has the taste of butterscotch.
Now I need you to understand something. When you're talking about the optical nerve, right, within the retinas of the eyes, it is basically an emulation of the rays of the sun. So, which also correlates to the theological context of Luke chapter 8, verse 17, right? It says that what happens in the dark comes to light, because that light is the spiritual light of enlightenment, which is under the age of Aquarius, to where you see beyond the illusion that was facilitated by the dark priesthood of the Piscean age, which created the simulation in itself. So this is why, as far as all technological devices, it creates an artificial light that subjugates the two physical eyes. It subjugates the optic nerve to where you don't see the true light, right? So this is how these archives are able to basically infiltrate your biological structure. They do it through the optical nerve within the eyes, right? I'm gonna keep playing the video.
And then it does a feeling like holding your breath and going pushing outwards. And at the tip of this chocolate chip, it then starts what they call sweating the quill. Now, the spinal cord stuff comes out of the spinal cord, out of the chocolate chip thingy, and it's everything that the lizard is. The lizard's whole body is dead. The little lizard thing is dead, and it can't go back in. Can't get back in. It's one way. Once it excretes this stuff, sweats this quill thing, the person's debilitated for an unknown amount of time. I don't know how long. But when they come back, they have to have some recovery time. But when they come back, they are not the person anymore. They are then the lizard. Let me put this to you flatly. The old person's consciousness is gone. The body is absolutely, totally dominated, and the lizard is smarter as a human then, and totally controls everything.
I just got a download just now. Now, this is why it's important to stay off recreational drugs, because I got a feeling within I still got it up here. I got a feeling around the election time, they're gonna try to. I got a feeling around the election time, they're gonna make marijuana legal all over the planet, right? Or all 50 states is gonna be legal. But that should be the time you should stop smoking it, because now it's really gonna be weaponized. So when when you're talking about drugs and recreational drugs and things of that nature, any type of drug, what does it do? It basically, you can tell when a person's high or on something because you can see it within their eyes, because the eyes are the window to the soul, right? So when these entities, when you lower your frequency due to the recreational drugs, due to the manipulation of your genetical structure, when you take in these these enzymes and these chemicals, within the drugs or whatever, it lowers your frequency. When your frequency is low, that's when entities that don't take corporeal form, they can attach themselves to your nervous system. So be very meticulous about doing drugs. You know what I'm saying? This is the time for alignment, because like I said, the millisecond that you lower your frequency, when you're getting high or whatever, that's when these entities can, basically attach themselves to your auric field and control you, right? And like I said, that's why, the great majority of all the pesticides and everything, as far as like the drugs, they have a form of nanotechnology in it. And all those forms of nanotechnology in itself, like I said, it's being used to body snatch you. That's what it's being used for. Everything is weaponized in the third dimension. That's why I say there is no evolution for the third dimension, because the third dimension is basically the foundation of the law of polarization. They got to create that dynamic. That's why everything is messed up here, positive, negative. You got the have and the have-nots. You got the rich and you got the poor. They got to have that dualistic energy here in order for them to survive. That's how they have self-preservation, right? Because if you don't have somebody being the common denominator within your simulation, that means that you cannot feed off of people, right? Because if everybody was on an equal playing field, you wouldn't be able to feed off another entity, right? That means that these entities wouldn't be able to feed off humans, right? So that's what it's for. That's why everything is to subjugate the spiritual energy. play this video back.
Time, it'll develop a rash, it'll lose its hair. Thing is, these things are all over the place and they mimic human behavior. In fact, one of their names in the past is mimic. A lot of the people that you hear about in the news that are getting people and chopping them up in the basement and eating them and stuff, frying them up.
So
These
like I
are
said,
what they
that's why you got to be very meticulous about, you know, because energy transfer is real. Whether you smoking with somebody, you drinking with somebody, stop lowering your frequency because, like I said, we in the age of Aquarius. This is the Great Awakening period. Because the Great Awakening period, you know, everything that's taking place is happening because of the earth energy that's coming to the planet and activating everything to where you see beyond the illusion. So you're going to see people for who they truly are. You're going to see people going crazy. You're going to see people, you know what I'm saying, be like, dang, I didn't even know he was like that. He done killed about like 8, 9 people. That's because these solar frequencies that's coming in is exposing everything in the simulation, right? What happens in the darkness is going to come to light, right? Luke chapter 8, verse 17.
drones, the parasited hosts of the lizards. They like to make them. The only thing a drone wants to do is make more, have sex, and torture someone. Like, it's a different kind of mentality. It's hard to express them.
So, like I said, everything is going to get exposed. Everybody, you know what I'm saying, whether you're an NPC or whether you being controlled by a archonic draconian entity in the lower fourth dimension, you know, it's one of those things where, you know, everything is going to be operating from a place of karma, right? That's what the year 8 is all about. It's the building and destroying, right? So a lot of people are going to get their karma within this year in the years beyond that, because that's when you're going to have Pluto when Pluto's basically going to be in Aquarius for 29 years, right? So as I was telling you before, you know, the etho energy that's activating the magnetic field of the planet is going to cause a interface transition. And that interface transition is a glitching system to where you're going to see everything as far as like within the simulation is going to expose the simulation. So now a lot of people ask me like, Bradell or Bdell, why when I take a picture and when people take pictures of UFOs and Bigfoot and they take pictures of Draconians and extraterrestrials, why I don't get a clear picture? The reason you don't get a clear picture is because the simulation in itself has a computing firewall, and that computing firewall, it basically creates a energy to where it basically discards anything that exposes the matrix, right? It's kind of like the same thing like when you used to try to get on a computer on Facebook when you was in school, it blocks you from that website. So the same thing actually takes place within the simulation. But now, since the veil is being lifted, as we in the sun cycle in the age of Aquarius, that's when everything is going to get exposed. And it's not just going to be acclimated to entities. You're going to see people for who they truly are. You're going to see family members for who they truly are. Friends, people that you thought was cool, people that you don't even fuck, that you used to fuck with, you ain't going to fuck with them no more because they're going to get exposed, right? So that's why a lot of things is going to be taking place now, right? So you're going to see these entities for who they truly are. Just like they showed you in the Mountain Dew commercial when they looked inside of when they was in the elevator and they looked in the mirror or whatever. What happened was, like I said, you're going to see these entities for who they truly are because, like I said, the optical nerve is a direct emulation of the rays of the sun. They work in tandem because those fractions of light activates the 2 spiritual eyes. So this lady right here is Sister Jenkins. Sister Jenkins ain't going to lie about seeing a goddamn extraterrestrial. I'll tell you that much. Because like I said, and you can just tell this is way back in the day. So when nobody really trying to clout chase back then when they talking about extraterrestrial species. Because like I said, when you go to Revelations 13, it tells you that that old serpent, when he was casted down by Anu, you know what I'm saying? That tells you right there how everything really took place. You have Draconians on the planet. You think a Zulu shaman, Credo Mutwa, he been saying it. You know what I'm saying? Because that's all acclimated to their mythology. Right? And I believe him over, you know what I'm saying, before I believe a damn pope. You know what I'm saying? So this is why you got to read this, watch this video that I put out not too long ago, maybe about a month ago. And it's talking about the firmament, the archons or whatever, because when the dome cracks open, that basically dematerializes the whole simulation. No more electrical grid, no more AI, artificial intelligence, to where you don't have a cybernetic dictatorship, right? That's what this is all about. So this is why you see in many different power outages. It talks about how much of North America may face electricity shortages in 2024, right? So like I said, this is all activated by the great solar flash when you have the pole shift. The sun's poles are about to flip. It's awesome. But like I said, they try to make it seem like it's some type of anomaly, but they don't understand that it's the end of the 6,000 years of the Piscean age. That was the age of darkness, the age of fallacy, the age of deception, the age of capitalism, the age of classism, the age of racism, right? All that stuff was acclimated to the old world because it worked for the Canaanite and the black nobility, Draconian archons, and those factions that work in tandem with that type of group, right? So it says the sun is growing feistier. Great news for the Aurora Watchers, bad news for the communication satellites, because the communication satellites works in tandem with the electrical grid that controls all technological devices and artificial intelligence. Because I told you, AI is an archon. It's a Draconian reptilian. It's a Draconian reptilian technology that basically works in conjunction with the Ark of the Covenant. It's basically the Ark of the Covenant has a piezoelectrical tachyon energy that basically holds up the simulation in itself. Basically, it's like the legs of the simulation. That's why the cherubim, they created it. The cherubim, the Draconian reptilian, the archons are all the same entities. 200 fallen angels, right? So, like I said, these suns coming in, these new suns coming in, happening all over the planet, right? You see a tetrahedron energy of radiation, Tesla angular radiation penetrating the dome. Because I need you to understand something. Tetra is the personification of four, right? 4 different energies. And tetra is another word for light, right? Now, for those coming in, I'm gonna give you a rundown real quick. You're gonna have to play the video back because you know what I'm saying, this is one of those videos you got to get out your notes because it's packed with a lot of information. So we're gonna start at the top. Now, as I told you before, shape-shifting is not a spiritual ability, it is a technology. And the reason I say it's a technology because it operates on liquid crystal technology. Liquid crystal technology is a holographic energy that basically camouflages the energy of the electrical grid system, right? It works in tandem with it. It's kind of like the same concept when you see a UFO that is taken up on the form of a cloud because it's operating in fourth octave ether. So it basically cloaks itself through the extraction of all technological devices to where it can hide its true form. So that holographic projection in itself is being created by trapped light in a millisecond, which are basically photons, and those photons are operated by the optical properties of birefringence that creates the law of polarization within the simulation, to where you're trapped in a grandfather paradox. You're trapped in time. You're trapped in an artificial system. You're trapped in an artificial time analysis mechanism, right? And it's all operated by a form of a Morse code of Babylonian mathematics. Babylonian mathematics is basically the binary code system within the simulated matrix system that works in conjunction with the electrical grid, which is the net of Indria, and the net of Indria is a Draconian reptilian net. And that Draconian reptilian net is being facilitated by the dark energies on the dark side of the moon when you're talking about these reptilian factions. So the liquid crystal technology, as I was telling you before, is a cloaking technology. It cloaks humans, right? It mimics the energy of humans. That's what artificial intelligence does, right? That's why, you know, when you get, so for those who are on dating websites and dating apps and things of that nature, sometimes you can't even differentiate if you're talking to AI or if you're talking to a real girl or you're talking to a real man. You know what I'm saying? It's one of those things where you got to use your spiritual discernment and intuitiveness to where you can tap into the energy to where you can basically delineate some real shit from some fake shit, right? This is the time you're supposed to be using your spiritual gifts. This is the time to be using it because we living in a time right now where artificial intelligence is able to mimic the energy of humans, and they doing it through the extraction of technological radiation that extracts neurons from the body and uploads it into a neuromorphic cyber cloud. So this is why you have artificial intelligence.
Did you think it was going to stay?
No.
So
Not
like
in
I
terms
said,
of the quality of it, but I mean,
what you see right now is a interface transition. So that liquid crystal technology basically cloaks the real physical vessel of a draconian entity to where you can't really see who they are. That's what the technology is for, right? So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, let me get some of this stuff off the screen. Because all this stuff works in tandem with the simulation. And the simulation is being galvanized by the firmament. The firmament works in conjunction. The firmament works in conjunction with the electrical grid system. And the electrical grid system has a positive electrical tachyon energy that works in tandem with the Ark of the Covenant that was created by the cherubim. The cherubim are the ones who created the Ark of the Covenant, a technology that holds up the simulation in itself. That's what this is all about. But due to the fractions of the cymatic frequencies of light penetrating the dome, that ethereal energy coming in, that's when it's going to expose everything within the simulation, right? So we living in a time right now, like I said, it's kind of hard to, get people to understand the mythology of extraterrestrials and many different cryptids and Bigfoot and UFOs or whatever. It's hard for people to understand that because they don't understand that the simulation in itself has a computing firewall. So when you have a computing firewall, that basically blocks everything that exposes the simulation to keep the illusion going, right? So that's why, you know what I'm saying, sometimes you got to use the matrix in order to get out, as I told you before. So, too much of anything is bad for you. It's okay to have, tablets and cell phones or whatever, you know what I'm saying? We got cell phones, but understand this is not a form of entertainment. You know what I'm saying? This is an energy. I mean, it's an energy weapon. It's an energy extraction weapon that basically extracts energy from us for these archonic forces to use artificial intelligence for us to mimic the energy because they don't have the rites of passage when you're talking about evolution and ascension. They don't have the rites of ascension. They can't leave this fermented dome. So in order for them to create this dynamic to where they can leave the dome and penetrate the dome, they try to mimic those who have organic souls. They try to mimic those who are chosen ones. They try to mimic those who are basically connected to the 144,000, right? Those who are tapped into that green etheric frequency. Those who are tapped in to the energy of the universe and the Most High. That's what they use. That's what the energy extraction matrix is all about. That's what the simulation is about. That's why they supplicate your energy and they make it into a weakness. They supplicate you so much to the point where you're acclimated to your root chakra. They got to keep your energy low. That's why everything around you is a weapon. Everything is an energy extraction. The cell phone, you got nanoparticles within the food and the weed, the recreational drugs. Everything is a weapon. Everything is frequency modification through technological devices and electrical energy. All this stuff is to subjugate your energy because when your energy is on a low vibrational frequency, here comes the Draconian reptilian in the form of a shadow. Because, like I said, some of them they can shapeshift. They don't have to take a physical form. They can take a shadowy form. Just like when you have sleep paralysis. When you have sleep paralysis, that is not ghost or nothing like that. Those are Draconian entities that's basically trying to, take over your auric field, right? They don't have to, they can come in the form of a shadowy being, or they can come, within themselves as a physical Draconian entity or archon, right? Or they have the ability to shapeshift into animals and things of that nature. You know what I'm saying? So within the simulation, they're basically like the queens on the chessboard. They can move anywhere they want as long as your frequency is low. If your frequency is low, they can use you for many different reasons. That's why it's imperative to understand that everything's a weapon or all around you, because when you have that comprehension level, that's when you start looking at this whole simulation like a galactical chess game. That's what it's all about. Then you start moving different, because when you move different, that's because you know the truth, right? Those who don't know the truth, you see, they move according to the simulation, right? They go along to get along with the simulation. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, get this video out there. It's very imperative, because a lot of people don't know. They be like, oh, it's cool, it's artificial intelligence, this is good, Neuralink and things of that nature. Artificial intelligence is here to subjugate the energy and for archons to leave the firmament. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for watching this video. Get this video out there, share this video all over the planet to where people have an intuitive understanding about what's taking place with technology. They're trying to turn it into a cybernetic dictatorship by way of a technocracy, which is a form of a totalitarian system. Subjugate you so much to the point where these entities can attach themselves to your frequency. Keep your frequency high. Get in that gym. Read books, eat fruit, whatever. Anything that's self-affirming, keep your energy so high, your vibration so high, so these damn archonic draconian entities don't have to use these technological devices to lower your energy, so where they can attach themselves to your morphogenetic field. Keep your energy high. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, end of transmission.
10:14. We will put an end to this madness.
It's me again, God. I know it's been a long time since I last called you back on your line. So I hope and I pray for your hand to help me on the ladder to the land. Karma's gonna get to you, and then you'll have a chariot with only one less friend. Now I had distant folks that are looking to my eyes to understand the wisdom he's given and his wealth from the skies. So thanks for this meal that I'm about to receive, and thank you for my health and all the good memories. Thanks for the courage taking on another day, when I used to not believe, but now I know about grace. Stay away from the fire, cause the flames does burn. Go with your gut feeling, when it's wrong you learn. For every one step I take, the Lord takes two. And do unto others if you want it done unto you. It's me again, God. I know it's been a long time since I last called you back on your line. So I hope and I pray for your hand to help me on the ladder to the land. It's me again, God. I know it's been a long time since I last called you back on your line. So I hope and I pray for your hand to help me on the ladder to the land. This a completion, the selfish proto-Grecian, Amerindian, Phoenician. I'm the last of the Mohicans, the bastard of the land, the pen, melanin, accretion. And we just trying to get back to the fact that we was kings and queens of a land before the avalanche seized it. I live on Turtle Island with the rest of the diseased. Better than the medicine for 7 different treatments. Niggas try to ride away but end up getting seasick. The sleep can feel my words like Braille, and they're awakened with the penmanship of Hindu script written in them vacant monastery honor. Honorary payments to the prototype. Tomorrow's only a day away, but nothing happens overnight. The fuck's wrong with going left when you know it's right? Biting off more than I can chew, that's an overbite. Black on black crime is like watching 2 soldiers fight when all along they was on the same page. History. It's me again, God. I know it's been a long time since I last called you back on your line. So I hope and I pray for your hand to help me on the ladder to the land. It's me again, God. I know it's been a long time since I last called you back on your line. So I hope and I pray for your hand to help me on the ladder to the land.